going, everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know who it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. Brought to you by Amazon City Rocks, rock and it'll thrive. Hey guys, yeah, you look at me, I'm like a little wet right now because I'd run out in the rain, close my car window. But in the podcast, that wasn't raining, so at least I got that going for me. But before we jump into this incredible podcast that you're going to have to listen to every bit of it, I want to thank our sponsor, Phoenix Fitness, because you guys know me. I love me my concerts. I love me my mosh pits, and I do not want to tap out at any given moment. Hell, the day I shot this, I went to go see Rise Against for the first time since the pandemic the night before this. And I was not jumping out of that pit, and I realized something, that my fitness level was, like, great for this stuff. Because I was always in the gym, lifting, doing cardio, all this to make sure I hit my fitness goals, to make sure that I could be in the pit and not tap out at any given moment when concerts came back and when festivals got going up again. And I want to make sure that was the case. But I need to recover right. That's where Phoenix Fitness comes in. Different pre-workouts, BCAA recovery compounds, creatines, proteins, multivitamins, anything you might need to achieve your fitness goals and help you recover and be the best possible you can be in that physical sense. That's where Phoenix Fitness will help you. Our listeners get 15%, I count it, 15% off using the code MSOTD at checkout at fnxfit.com. So please do that. And I want to thank Phoenix Fitness for the sponsor. Again, 50% off using the code MSOTD. Now to our featured presentation. You guys know the band Small Town Titans. If you don't, I know you know the name because that American rock and roll power trio, they're really continually growing and just are not stopping. They recently got off the road with the band Hinder. Hinder was the headliner on that tour. Jonny, the drummer, is on the podcast today, and we go deep into what the band ended up learning on that tour. The importance of professionalism, the importance of adapting, the stories that revolve around why that is the case. So when it comes to being a fan of music, when it comes to being in a band, that no matter what size, no matter who you are, you can use this in your daily life as a fan, as a band, in your professional life. A lot of this relates so much, and you're going to understand why. And you're going to get in the mindset of a musician onto this aspect because he's also a fan as well of a lot of this music. So when it comes to being a fan in a band, in a big band, in the production side, whatever it might be, this is a podcast for you to definitely check out and really take to heart because you're going to learn today, baby. Are you guys ready? Let's go! Yeah! Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast, when you think American rock and roll power trio, this band should be the first band that probably pops into your mind because, I mean, I've listened to some of their music and, man, just that rock and roll style, real classic take, real modern twist on it as well, just absolutely beautiful every time you listen to it. They recently just finished up a tour with the band Hinder, and I'm so glad I get to talk to them before they jump back out on the road again. So please welcome from the band Small Town Titans, the drummer for the band, Jonny. So Jonny, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
How you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Man, I am doing A-okay. You know, I'm just happy that, live shows are back and I'm going like what seems like now at least two or three times a week. So my energy level during when I'm like not doing anything is really low. But like if I'm doing something, I can just amp it up. I just have to find that like perfect efficiency and how to use it.
Yeah, man, for sure.
But how's everything going in your day and age and your place in the world right now?
Pretty good. We just got off the road, so I slept for 9 hours in my own bed last night, or 2 nights ago. I slept pretty good last night too. Which it's those things that you don't, you take for granted for sure when you're in the van and you're doing hotels. You're getting 5 hours on average every night because you got to get up, you got to drive a little after the show, then go to sleep, then get up and still have a few more hours to go to the show the next day. I mean, that wasn't like that every day, but towards the end, we didn't sleep at all. And it was just like, oh my God, let's just go home. But then you go home in 48 hours, you miss the road. So you're always missing the other thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, take a look at, the past year with the whole entire pandemic, with it seemed like every single band was on the show for a while. It was you guys were not able to play shows. Me as a fan and a lot of the other fans out there, we weren't able to go to shows. So we were constantly missing every single show that we could go to. Now for me, it's like, all these shows are coming back and it feels like I'm going every single other day to a show. And it's not just here where I live in Milwaukee. It's like I'm going to Madison, Green Bay, going down to Chicago, going all over the place. And it's a time thinking, my God, I wish I could just, maybe just like make it home a little bit quicker. Not only that, but maybe just like take a little bit of a break. But then I remember what last year was like, and I'm thinking, nah, I'm not going through that again. Kind of always putting it in perspective in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, man, for sure. Sounds like you're a concert junkie. I like it.
It was something where becoming a concert junkie all started revolving around like making the whole entire podcast and everything around that I've done. And it's just it's my favorite place in the world to go to, no matter where it is, no matter like what city it's in, just going to a show because everyone is there to experience the music in such a positive way where it's just no one gets angry, no one gets in a fight. It's like even the mosh pits, they're crazy, people are going nuts, but it's all a controlled, chaotic thing. Because the night before we shot this, I was in Chicago to go see Rise Against. And the crowd, the pit was just going absolutely insane. But it was like after every single song, people were getting launched all over the place. People were falling down, but we were picking them back up. After every single song, everyone's giving each other high fives, fist bumps. People are hugging each other. It's like, this is something that is absolutely beautiful. And I don't care if I'm completely, drenched in sweat at this point because the temperature is 85 degrees outside. Humidity is like super duper high. So everyone is just sweating like crazy out here. But it just felt so good to be back out there again in that kind of a setting. And I don't want to lose it again. Was that one of the first
ones you saw since the pandemic? Was that like your moment where live music came back into your life? Was that just one of the best ones so far?
That's probably one of the best ones so far because it's my favorite band. Like the first show.
Okay. Right on, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. The first show that I would consider like the show that like got me like, it's finally back was back in July. I got to go see, went to the West Chicago Social Club in West Chicago, and there was a band called Sleepwaker, and I've had their bassist on the podcast before. Then this band Victims, a metalcore band, they were doing their release show that night. And it was something where it was like, that was finally the feeling of everyone's back in a little concert venue. The pit's going crazy. Everyone's happy to be there. The energy is just amped up, and it finally felt like it was back at that moment, for me at least.
Right.
What was it? I would say, awesome. What was it like for you going out on the road again and just like finally being able to just play live shows?
It was really cool with our, I'll give you this. Our band, we're still growing. We're still moving up, definitely not plateauing or going down, which is good. We did a little bit of touring on a national level before the pandemic, but when the pandemic hit, our booking agent called us and said, this is a really big opportunity for you guys. This is a blessing in disguise of sorts, because there's so many bands that aren't going to know what the hell to do during the pandemic because all they know is touring. You guys are doing more than that. You've got your YouTube presence, your online store, this and that. This is your chance to grow and come out of the pandemic 10 times bigger than when it started. And then we can hit the ground running with your band. And we took that to heart, and we did everything that we could to live up to that expectation. And I think we have. When we went back out there, it was by far our biggest, most professional tour yet. The Hinder guys were amazing every day. Super cool. We became fast friends. They dug how professional we were on and off the stage. And so it just feels good to know that things are continuing to happen for the band. And I don't want to say, I'd like to thank the pandemic, but you know what I mean? We just, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right?
Exactly. I wouldn't say it's like thanking the pandemic, but it's something where the situation around the world completely had changed back in March of 2020. Concerts were gone with them not returning for the foreseeable future. And even like just getting together with people and just going out and doing stuff in a public place seemed nearly impossible and seemed like it wasn't going to happen for who knew how long at that point. But instead of taking a look at what I think a good number of bands end up doing, and it's like, okay, you guys had some traction going on, but all of a sudden the pandemic hits, and some bands thought, you know what, we kind of are just hoping things get back to the way they were so we can pick up where we were going. But then there's bands like with you guys, and it's okay, you took a look at it and thought, this is a situation where everything is completely changed. However, instead of focusing on what could have been or what we thought should have been, let's take a look at what's going on now and focus in on that. And especially with your online presence, especially on YouTube, and then your connection to fans via social media, you were able to continue that growth, especially at a time when that was the only connection that people could make with each other in a more broader aspect. I mean, people were still going and seeing their families, maybe seeing some close friends, but you weren't going and seeing people and meeting with like a bunch of strangers because you were going to shows or something. No, you couldn't really do that. So the best way to do that was connect with them online. For you, connect with the fans online and really continue to grow the band during a time when you couldn't even go out and actually perform in front of these people.
I mean, yeah, exactly. We used it as an opportunity. And we always considered this a job, in ways that I know like everybody in the band knows that, but I don't know, like we run it like a small business big time. Like we have Monday and Friday weekly meetings, and everybody has tasks they're assigned for the week to get done. And we really do treat it like a business. It's not just all fun and games.
Well, especially as a band, I was say, especially as a band that's growing though, you're not going to want to treat it like it's all fun and games, because if you do, yes, you're still going to have fun with it, but when it comes to achieving those goals that you want to end up achieving with the band, when it comes to, okay, maybe, you start out this point, now you want to end up being able to get on some smaller tours, start touring nationally, and then get to a point where not only are you going to be touring nationally, but you're going to be the ones headlining those national wide tours. If you're going to want to get to that point, you have to treat it like a business at the exact same point. But it's kind of like the same adage of, if you do something you love, you're not going to work a day in your life. And it seems like, with you guys, you created a band. You're doing something that you love. So you're taking a look at those more administrative business style tasks as this is a necessity to continue to do what we love.
For sure, man. And every time we see somebody higher up the food chain than us, you learn something, or you try to, I mean, we just had the biggest show of our career. We got to open up for Halestorm at the York Fair. We're both from York, Pennsylvania. So that was a big hometown night. Like, it was a very special thing. Lizzie Hale was cool as fuck. She came right up to us during sound check and said, "I'm a fan of your band." And we did a Hunger Strike with her. We did a cover of Hunger Strike with her on stage. No one knew it was happening. So all of our fans flipped out in the audience. And it was our first like arenas level show. And it was a lot of fun, but it was also very stressful. And I know some people are going to go roll their eyes like, "Come on, man, that's rock star stuff. Like, get out of here." But it was, because when we saw their crew and how they operate, we were like, how do you get to this level? Oh my, there were like 6 trailers for different sectors of live Halestorm. Like, this was the production trailer. This was the tour managing trailer. This was catering. This was Halestorm's dressing room. This was the warm-up room. Like, it was like, whoa, we don't have a crew yet. So you're just picking their brains and while trying to be as respectful as you can and everything, but you're just like, you're learning every time that you're with somebody higher than you. Like, oh, how do you do this? How do you do that? And you're taking mental notes, or even just actual notes on your phone. You know what I mean? And you're just learning. So,
I've done a lot of that as well.
Into the business side of things too, and when coming back to where it's a job, not just fun and games. You're like, okay, how do we get to this level? Got it. We're going to work towards that. Make it a goal. That kind of thing.
Yeah, and when it comes to especially working with, like, seeing some of these bigger bands and like a band like Halestorm and seeing how they operate, it's when you're picking their brain. You're not trying to like steal like any kind of thing from them or anything, because they've gotten to a certain point, especially when it comes to music. As you take a look at the musical genres that everyone is in, you want to continue to grow the genre. You're going to want to make sure that these other bands are continuing to thrive, because it's not like, one band is competing against another band. No, it's like a lot of those bands that are very similar to each other, the fans bases are almost like interconnected in a way. So you just keep growing that, and you want to see bands continue to succeed, so the music continues to succeed, and then everyone can keep enjoying it the way they are. And you're just learning about this stuff. Same thing with me with the podcast, where there's certain things that I have no idea about when I talk to different musicians and talk to different people that are around different record labels, different PR firms. Yeah. It's something where, I'm asking them certain questions because I want to learn. It's not that I want to, compete against you. No, I just want to learn so I can apply it myself. And then the bands that I end up bringing on, I can help promote them even better, where all of a sudden at first it was, advertising. Yeah, I had no idea what I was going to do, like social media advertising. All of a sudden, had someone help me out with a bunch of YouTube stuff. And once I did that and kind of reconfigured a little bit around the YouTube channel, all of a sudden I started seeing the subscriber numbers and viewer numbers continually rising. I'm like, you know what? I think I did something good here.
That's all you need, man. If that's what's going on, you're doing something right. And I think you're doing a good job right now, man. This is
thank you.
And I was just saying
stuff. And if someone asks me, hey, how do I do this? I'm going to be more than happy to tell them, like, this is how I was shown to do it. This is how I'm doing it. And this is the reason why. If you want to do it, go ahead. If you don't want to use it, well, I gave you the advice. I told you what I do, and I'll let you do what you do with it, instead of holding on to it like a secret. Yeah. Like, it's all mine.
And that's been cool with other bands too. I mean, everybody started somewhere, right? So you'd be amazed at how much a bigger band is willing to help if you've been professional and you've proven that you're worth their time. And I don't want that to sound egotistical in some way about a bigger band, but like, they are busy and they have a lot of people that try to come at them every day. And like, if you can show them, hey, we're not messing around here, in a good way, they're actually more than happy to share some advice with you, which is really cool, because sometimes I think bands are afraid to ask that kind of stuff, or they think they won't be it's a well-kept secret. It's like you just said, it's mine. And that's really not the case. And I think you also learn as you go, so many things you assumed is up to the artist, or that they know that they know about this, they know about that. They actually don't. Like, you can't really book yourself with a giant band. But you can't do that. You can make friends and connections and, hey, we'd love to tour with you. But then, like, they have an agent, you have an agent. They have to correlate things, and away you go. Like, those are the things you learn as you move up in the ranks. Like, oh no, that's this person's job. Oh, that's this person's job. That's this person's job. And it takes a team to do any band the right way. And we're still building that team.
But it's, again, one of the things you understand is that you need that if you want to reach those goals, like if you want to end up being a band that has a very similar style production way, or like stage presence or crowd size when it comes to shows, like I'm going to use Halestorm as an example because you guys play with them at York, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But if you want to get to that point, it's okay. When it comes to booking stuff, I have to have an agent. When it comes to press stuff, has been like a press agency that ends up helping out with it.
Right. Yeah.
There's so many other things that you understand.
And that's unfortunately, until you're at a certain level, you don't realize that stuff. And it's nothing against anybody. It's just being naive about the industry a little bit. Somebody will hit me up randomly on a Facebook message, be like, hey, can I interview you? And it's like, no, not really. Because you're supposed to go through our now. I'm not an idiot. I'm not a jerk to them. You know what I mean? But I just say, actually, you have to contact our publicist at blah, blah, blah. He'll set it up. Because like there's a method to things. As you know, that's how we set this up. And that's the kind of stuff that you learn as you go along, that there's people that do certain parts of the business and you just fall in line and learn as you go and all of that stuff.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm a perfect example of that when it comes to something like that, where when I started out interviewing bands, a lot of them I interviewed were really small and incredibly independent. So reaching directly out to them was something that I just understood. It's like you reach directly out to them and then you talk with them personally. But as I started trying to get some bigger bands on back in August of 2020, right, I started looking around. I'm like, okay, I have to connect with them, but they're going to have, I'm going to have, I'm going to use like Spotify monthly subscriber count or listener count. They have like 300,000, 400,000 monthly listeners, and they're signed to a record label. So if I ask them directly, I'm probably not going to get them, but like, what's the best way to go about it? I had to learn that for myself. And next thing you know, it's like, now I'm reaching out to different publicists. Or if I can't find anything on the publicist, one thing I always do is if I can find the information on their agent, but not the publicist, I'll send it to the agent, because then it's like, if you're not the person that deals with this, or if there's a publicist that deals with this, can you please point me in that direction? Because then it's
sure. And a good team will do that. Will help you with that, because everybody wants the band to succeed, if the team's good. So if you hit up the agent can hopefully, if he has the time, like, no, you're supposed to email this guy, whatever.
All right, let me ask you this question.
You got it.
Let me ask you this question, kind of continue on like with this whole entire idea of learning not only as you go, but learning from other bands or other, whatever you're doing, learning from people in that industry that are larger than you in terms of overall, I'd say, notoriety or fan base, whatever it might be. From your
Right.
perspective, with all the different bands that you've toured with, especially the bands that are bigger than you that you've tried to learn stuff from, what is probably the most important thing or the couple most important things that you've learned from these bands that you've talked to or have toured with as well?
It just be sorry, there's a four-wheeler just drove by. I hope you can still hear me there.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Just to be as professional as possible at all times. And I know that might sound like, and that sounds vague, but it really is true. Like, for example, on the Hinder tour, first day of the tour, we were late by an hour and we didn't know it. We were told by the promoter, get there at 4:00. Little did we know, the TM, the tour manager for Hinder, wanted us there by 3:00. First day. And I'm just like, oh shit. Because, right, we're not going to start off on the right foot. And you could tell, like, he wasn't mean, but he was like, hi guys. No, don't worry. It's okay. Don't worry that you're late. Like, he was professional and nice, but I know, like, he's not happy that we're late, and that's a bad start. 2-3 shows in, earned their respect. We were good on stage. We got our stuff off stage real quick. He said, you need to be here by 3:00 every day from here on out. We were there at 3:00 every day without fail. No problem. And we quickly got his respect. And where was I going with this? Oh, just being professional all the time. Sorry. There were, on certain shows, a lot of them, there were like 2 local bands opening before the tour package, us and Hinder. And sometimes they would run late. It's a really important thing to not do if you're a local band. Even if it's like 3 to 5 minutes over, you think, big deal. It adds up because maybe there's only a 15-minute changeover in between acts. And then we have to make up for that lost time. But we did it every time it happened on the tour. I want to say it happened 3 or 4 times. And we made up for lost time. We got on stage faster. We got off stage faster. That mattered so much to Hinder. And they told us, they were like, that's it, man. That's it. Like, you guys passed with flying colors on this tour. You were an amazing band on stage. We're going to go tell our agent that you guys get an A+ from us. He's going to tell your agent. That's going to get out into the industry. Like, hey, this band is a joy to work with. That's what I'm talking about just staying professional at all times. Even if you're tired, you're getting jerked around a little bit. Like, hey, today the set was 45 minutes. Hey, today it's only 30 minutes. You just smile, you go, okay. And you do the best you can every day. And you realize everybody's out there trying to do their job, especially a tour manager. A TM has the most stressful job in the fucking world. If the bus breaks down, the TM's got to figure it out. If the drummer's throwing up, the TM's got to figure it out because you drank too much the night before. Like, a TM on tour is unbelievable. Unbelievable job. And as long as you just stay the course and keep a smile on your face as much as you can, that's really what it takes. That's the biggest thing you can do. And I've learned that from just being around professional bands of all sizes.
Is it not being like professional, but one thing you did mention there is just the willingness to work alongside other bands as well. Using the example of Hinder, when sets end up running long from local bands that were before you, figuring out how to make sure that by the time Hinder, being the headliner, got on stage, that they were able to go on stage on time. You guys were able to make up for that lost time, and they were able to go through their entire set without fail and without having to maybe cut something out or have to deal with some other kind of weird time constraint. No, you basically made sure that by the time they went on stage, they were the ones that were going to be most prominent because they're the headliners. Of course, there are going to be people.
It's just, sorry, real quick. Yeah. It's basically, just knowing your role. Like, it's Hinder's tour. We are the special guest. Some people are coming out to see us, which is fantastic. A lot of people didn't know who we were. Also fantastic. We made fans out of Hinder's fans. But we're supposed to warm the crowd up for Hinder. That's our job. Our job is to be professional and warm the crowd up for Hinder. If we're doing that, good.
Oh, absolutely. And even
that's our role in the whole, in every day, that's our role. So we just try to do what our role is and learn.
And even going back to what happened the first day on the tour where you guys showed up an hour late from what the promoter said versus what the tour manager said. Yep. And it's, of course, you're going to understand that there are times where mistakes happen, things do happen, but it's how do you respond after something like that happens with you guys? It was
Right.
you are end up leaving late that first day based on a miscommunication. However, you
Yes.
ensured that throughout the rest of the tour that you were going to make sure that that miscommunication was no longer going to be a problem. And that's a huge matter of respect, because everyone understands that we're human. We're going to make mistakes. But how do you work with those mistakes, and how do you learn from them? Because,
Right.
I mean, at that point, you went, like you said, after about a couple of shows, after that first one, you earned their respect through and through. And that's a major thing to have happen within anything you do, whether it's in the music industry, whether it's playing shows, whether it's in more of like an entertainment professional or corporate thing, whatever it
Yeah.
might be.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that understanding that mistakes do happen, but how do you respond to those mistakes, and how do you make sure mistakes like that don't happen again?
Yeah. I want to say it was the first one on the tour where things were running a little late and we made up for lost time. That the TM came over to us and was like, guys, thank you so much. And you could just start to feel that wall coming down a little, so to speak, about just, this is a good band. Like, I want to get to know these guys now. And so what are they doing next? And how can I help their career and that kind of thing. And, once you're able to have a drink or two with a TM, things are smooth sailing.
Oh, absolutely. Because even beyond that as well, who knows who that TM knows in terms of other tour managers, other connections he might have with different labels.
It's a small business, man. It's a tight circle. It's a very small industry. If you piss people off, you'll be blacklisted before you know it. I won't get into it, but I saw some of that happen on the tour. I saw some people get blacklisted real quick because they didn't do their job right, and it's just like, yeah, that's gonna get out there.
Yeah, and there's no need to really dive into any of the specifics of that in this instance, because that does involve people with more of their personal lives. Well, but it is a thing to bring up a little bit more in a broader sense, because that stuff does happen.
The bus drivers or the techs, like, just some guys, just sometimes if they're just not, if you do things and it's really, really uncalled for, like, hey, the tour manager will text all the tour managers he knows, and he'll be like, don't hire that guy. That guy is not going to be good at teching, or that guy's not going to be good at driving. That kind of stuff is, you just see that happening and you're like, ooh, good luck.
Yeah, and it's something where, again, like we said, of course, there's going to be point in times where, and this comes to anything, where mistakes are going to end up happening, where problems are going to end up arising. But it's how do you respond to those? Where I'm going to use like a tech as an example. If something goes wrong, and it's like, okay, I understand if something goes wrong one time, but all of a sudden, the next 3 shows, if the same issue keeps happening, now there's definitely going to be a problem, because the issue happened one time. But if it keeps happening, then you're not learning from that mistake, and you're potentially putting the show and the tour at jeopardy, because times are running long. All of a sudden, sets are going to have to be cut short. Travel times are going to have to be more constrained. You're really limiting it's just one mistake can really impact the room for error.
For sure. Bad communication, poor attitude, things like that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. We didn't see it a lot. And I'm not just talking about this tour. I'm talking about in general, out of all the tours we've done and stuff. It's just like, you can impress people just as quickly as you can piss them off. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And having that and knowing that mindset and understanding that, especially, well, again, with showing up late that first day, and then working your guys' ass off to make sure that mistake wasn't going to happen again, and then continually being able to be adaptable, so that, again, with it being Hinder's tour, that you guys were going to be able to support Hinder in any way possible, making that happen. And all of a sudden, that tour manager is going to be texting all of his tour manager contacts saying, hey, if you guys need a band if you guys have like bands that are looking for like supporting acts at this point, Small Town Titans is definitely going to be the way to go, because they know how to act on tour. They know how to work with these with your headliners, and it's going to come to a time and point where if something goes wrong, you're going to be more than happy to know that they're the ones that are going to be in your corner. Or if something goes wrong with them, you're going to be more than okay with the fact that they're going to be able to remedy that situation and make sure that situation doesn't happen again.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So that's what we do.
All right,
if we're opening a tour.
And even diving a little bit deeper into the Hinder tour, I got to ask, what was your favorite moment on tour overall, especially with it being, I think, was that your first big tour coming back since the pandemic?
Yes. It was probably it was closer to the end of the tour, just because the way schedules were and everything. One misconception people might have is that all the bands just like travel together. Not necessarily. We were in a van with a trailer. We were doing hotels. We were going that route. They had a bus with bunks and a driver. They would drive overnight. So you're on your own from show to show. It's just, okay, the next show is at this place. Be there by 3:00. We're not following their bus. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's hard to get the schedules to line up and whatnot. Towards the end of the tour, we did all have a day off together in Birmingham, Alabama. And they wanted to go get dinner with us and have some drinks. And so some of the guys did come out and do that. And that was the first time we really got to like talk, you know. We didn't have a show today. It wasn't just, hey man, great set last night. Cause you know, in the beginning, you're not going to you don't want to go up there and tell them your life story. You know, there's a feeling out process. It is what it is. It's like meeting somebody in any other way in your life. You know what I mean? You have to get to know them. That was the first night where we really got to hang out and have some drinks, and they invited us back onto their bus, which was cool, listening to music. And that was just like, this is really great. And they said, you're a really good band. We love this song. You know, that was when, to go back to your a previous question or topic we were on about how, if you're so professional, that gets back to our agent. He tells your agent, like that was coming from Hinder right then and there on that day on the bus. And that was really, really cool. So that was definitely my favorite part, just getting to know them as people. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's fantastic, especially with the fact that and not only that, but you heard right from the guys themselves the support they had for you and the admiration they had for you guys at the same time.
If they let you on the bus, you're really doing something right. You know what I mean? Because that's their house. That's another thing I think some people don't quite realize. Like, I didn't see it happen too much, but there's the occasional story of like an overzealous fan, like knocking on the door and everything. And like, that's their house. Like, you shouldn't do that. You know, like who knows what kind of day they're having. There could be stuff going on at home. They could be really tired. Like, you just don't be respectful with that. We did not go on their bus ever unless we were asked or we were said, hey, come on in. Like that's you're inviting us into your home. Thank you. That kind of thing.
And even like from a fan perspective, I think a lot of fans can even take note of this is when it comes to the bands that you see on tour, no matter if it's a smaller band, bigger band, whatever it might be, it's understand that they are people as well, just like you and me. And just be respectful of that, because a lot of the good amount of shows that I go to, some of the smaller ones with bands that I've had on the podcast, because I want to see as many bands I've had on the podcast possible to show my support and be out there and enjoy. Also to see you guys in person as well. There are times where I love to go out there, and one I was at recently, I interviewed all three of these bands, and the band that was in the middle, I've interviewed their lead singer, and he was going around talking to so many people and talking to people that he even knew at the venue. I could have gone up and been like, oh, hey man, what's up? This. But I'm like, you know what? He's doing his own thing. He's connecting with people his way. If I get a moment of free time with him, you know, that's fine. But if not, he's connecting with people in his way. I'm going to let him do that. The band that opened the show though, I started talking to him for like 2 minutes. All of a sudden the second band went on, and he's like, hey man, I don't want to like yell over like the band or anything because I got to rest my voice for the next show. So do you mind talking afterwards? Easy. Why would I say anything against that? And then the headliner band waited for them to get off stage, and then they were starting to talk. People just kind of waited in line a little bit, just shook the guy's hand. It was Sahaj from Ra. Shook his hand, talked for like 2 minutes, and then there was a kid that really wanted a picture with him that was like maybe 10 years old. I'm like, you know what? This picture with this kid is going to mean more to this kid than talking to him is going to mean to me. So let's make that happen. Let the line keep moving and went about my business. You know, it's just something where I understand with you guys. You guys are people too. And you guys have different people you want to talk to, different things you need to do. So let that happen. But if I get a chance to talk to you guys, I'm more than happy to do that. But I'm not going to be like, I don't want to like take up too much of your time or anything like because especially on a live show. There's so many other people that you guys have to talk to as well.
I mean, when all else fails, too, you could probably buy just about anybody in a band a beer, and they'll talk to you.
That's kind of what I've discovered, honestly. It's
I mean, it's a part of the lifestyle. You know what I mean? It just is. It just is.
And of course, there's going to come a point in time in life where you're not able to do that necessarily anymore because, you know, life ends for all of us at some point. So enjoy it while you have it. Enjoy it while it lasts, and let it just keep rolling.
Of course. And I'm obviously, if you don't drink, that's great or whatever. And of course, I'm just saying, like, that's an icebreaker. You know what I mean? If you didn't know me and we were really busy and you bought me a beer and you said, hey, I did this podcast thing, I would gladly say, hey, thanks for the beer. This is our publicist. Let's set something up. You know what I mean? Like, it would be no problem. So that's just, I don't know, that works.
And with you,
most musicians aren't going to refuse a beer.
No. And with you having that mindset as well, where it's being able to connect with fans in that sort of way, especially when you're out on tour, it just adds more to the band as well when it comes to not only
we're at that level right now where we want to definitely meet as many people as we can. COVID be damned, we're all vaxxed up, and I've got a gator right here. So if I go into a gas station or whatever, I'm good. You're not going to hear me complaining about putting a piece of fabric over my nose. I'm good. But it's really important. Every night on this tour, after every show, we went to the merch booth and took pictures and signed autographs and met you and talked and all that, because we're in that growing phase, man. I'm a believer. Now, I know COVID, a little different right now. Obviously, it's gotten better, but it's still going, things are happening with the Delta variant, of course, and everything else. If you don't want to come out and meet people, I get it. It's a little different right now. But we felt the pros outweighed the cons to do it right now. And we're at a level as a band where we just need to meet as many fucking people as possible. You know what I mean? We're trying to meet as many fans as possible, leave a lasting impression, shake your hand, look you in the eye, take a picture with you, smile, and you're going to go, damn, that band was so good on and off stage. I will not miss them when they come back, because that's the goal. And until you're at a level where you're like causing absolute pandemonium when you walk in the building, I think I'm a believer that bands should do that, because it's just how you grow. It's just how you grow the fan base.
And even when you get to a level where you're causing absolute pandemonium when you walk in the building, you're still going to want to be able to do that in some capacity, but it's going to have to evolve due to the fact that
then you just have to charge hundreds of dollars for VIPs and all that bullshit.
Yeah, when it comes to some of these, it's like, especially with a lot of the bigger bands, it's like, you know what? I would love to go and meet a bunch of these in person. I'd love to have a beer with them, but especially these bigger ones, like, I know they've got different ways they operate based on the size of the band. So I can't necessarily do that. Some of the smaller acts that I know and that I've had on the podcast as well, especially at some of these bigger shows, it's after the show. They might be walking around, might be at the merch booth or something. Boom, I can get right there. I can get them a beer, and then we can talk for maybe 2-3 minutes, and and boom, all of a sudden that works. But still, when it comes down to, especially at the band stage that you're at right now in terms of overall size and continuous growth, with people that aren't necessarily aware of who you are, and they go to see these bands that are the headliners, like with Hinder, and they see you guys, maybe they end up really liking the sound. Maybe they end up really digging the vibe of the band. And after the show, if they get to meet you and you actually have a personal conversation with them, that goes so far above and beyond, because now they have this positive connection to your band, both from your music and from who you are as people, to the point where they're going to be listening to you guys continuously. They're going to end up telling their friends about you. They're going to post about it on social media, especially if they take a picture with you guys, because who doesn't want to, post a picture of, hey, I took a picture with this awesome band. Take a look at this. It always ends up happening. But then the next time you guys come around town by wherever they are, or anywhere they can get to see a show, they're going to end up buying that ticket. They're going to end up going to see you guys again, and the cycle is just going to keep repeating.
Yeah, man. And I'm the same way as a fan myself. I mean, especially when I was a kid, I would go see Hinder. I saw Hinder as a teenager. It was actually hilarious. Cody's the drummer. We have similar characteristics. We both have big curly hair. His is red. He's like my twin from Oklahoma City. I met him when I was like 16 or something. Obviously, I looked completely different. I was a teenager, and I had a Hinder t-shirt on. I was so stoked to meet him. We took a picture. He was cool then. And then we took a picture on the final night of the tour, and I sent him the old one. And I was like, here we are in 2008, man. Thanks for the tour. And he was like, holy shit, dude. Wow. I had no idea. That's really, really cool. And so as a teenager, just as a kid, the bands that took the time to meet me, it was huge to me. Halestorm was another one. We were talking about them. I saw them several times as a kid. They were from Pennsylvania, so in our neck of the woods. They played around quite a couple times when that first record started to break, when they got signed to Atlantic Records. They were so cool every time. You don't forget that shit. You know what I mean? You just don't.
No,
we're trying to do the same thing on the other end. Like, yeah, we're trying to be as cool as we possibly can every day.
It's just the overall mindset is what I find absolutely fascinating about not only yourself, but the rest of Small Town Titans as well, where you have the mindset of a band that is really on the rise right now, but you also have the mindset of the fan as well and the professional side of it, to the point where your mindset is understanding every single aspect in terms of how what you do makes the fans end up feeling, because you have been fans of it and you know the impact that it has. On the professional side, you know how to act because you know how these other bands are operating and you know how to work within them, especially if they're the headliner. And when it comes to the musical side of it as well, I mean, you guys are making this fantastic music and you guys understand that people are going to connect with it the way that you connected with the music that you absolutely loved when you were growing up, or when you were, really getting music, or when you're really into music at this point in life, whatever it might be. And with that understanding of that, you can always relate to whatever situation you're in at any given moment and make it the best possible situation, whether it's for the fans because you know what it's like, whether it's as a musician you know what it's like, or whether it's as a support on a tour because you understand the idea behind it.
Yeah, thanks, man. That was really nice. I mean, I've always liked to know about the why and the how of things. Like a lot, like as a kid going to shows, I would be paying attention to the drum tech and the stagehands and like, why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? So there's always been that. And I've always been a fan of rock and roll. And so I do like to always put myself in the fan's perspective. What does the fan want to see? Okay, the fan would love this. The fan would love that. Well, let's go that route. I feel like I have a good like way to in my gut to just kind of know what a fan would want, because I'm still a fan. You know what I mean? Like, I have tickets to Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison, Joan Jett next summer, God willing, the pandemic, blah, 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 everything else. Because I'm a fan. I'm going to go to that. I'm going to get a couple drinks. I'm going to buy a tour shirt. I'm going to scream the lyrics of Kickstart My Heart. You know what I mean? Because I like that fucking song. We're all still fans at some level. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even like for myself as well, I mean, even though I'm doing this podcast, like I'm still a fan of all this stuff as well, to the point where if people that I end up watching my stuff, if all of a sudden it's like, hey, I'm trying to start something, will you come on and just like help us out with something? Of course I'm going to help you out with it. You guys are supporting my stuff. I want to support you guys as well as a fan of your guys' stuff. It just makes a lot of sense. And even with going to shows as well, that's some things I do as well. Same thing with you, where I'm not necessarily watching a lot of like what the stagehands are doing, like, changing everything out, the guitar techs. Thing I'm always
when I was younger, it just fascinated me when I was young. I just couldn't believe how many people it took to put on a show at a big level. It blew me away. Like, just the whole thing was very fascinating. Like how many trucks are coming through with all the rigging and the lights and the pyro, and I was just like, wow, this is a hell of a thing to see come together before the first note is even played. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just blew me away.
So one thing I'll say. Okay, but I'll jump on this though. But the one thing that's surprised about that, like, because the only time I've ever been like completely surprised at like the whole entire stage presence and like how much it takes to really put on that kind of performance was back in 2019. I was here in Milwaukee, I was at the rave, and I was seeing Seven Dust in this moment, and they had like 2 or 3 buses and rigs that were in the parking lot. But what was even crazier was there were 8 more buses there because of who was playing in the basement of the rave that night. And it was Tech 9. And I'm just looking like how much more like he had for this stuff, and he was in a smaller space. I'm like, this is absolutely nuts. And it got to a point where when Seven Dust was performing, all of a sudden, if they were like, in between songs in the basement, people from the basement would be hearing all of us upstairs and just hearing this like crazy going on the floor because of the mosh pit. But whenever we were in between songs, we would hear all the bass from the basement. And at both shows end at the same time. Everyone's walking out. You have 2 completely different styles of music, and everyone's happy. And just seeing how much of the production. Of people.
That's a lot. Like those are big names on both sides of that spectrum, man. On both floors. That's a hell of a night for that place.
And just seeing just like, holy shit.
I hope the bartenders were tipped well.
I'll put it this way: it's Milwaukee. That's usually the case.
That show. Right on.
But usually when it comes to certain shows where if I'm not going to be in a mosh pit going absolutely crazy, if it's something where it's like, I think this was the best way to describe it is when I saw Alter Bridge right before the pandemic hit. Because Alter Bridge isn't going to cause an insanely crazy pit or any kind of a pit. So I'm like, okay, I understand that. So I'm watching the show. I'm like, how am I going to, really get into this the way that I could get into this? I don't play guitar. I have no idea how to even play a guitar. So anytime I watch this fascinates me. But then I just like got locked into like watching Mark Tremonti play. I'm thinking, I don't even know how to do some of this stuff. And then there are people that know how to do this and don't know how to do that. And it's just mesmerizing, fascinating just watching that.
He's one of the best. He's effortless. Yeah, I saw Alter Bridge once or twice. I saw them once headlining in a club back in my neck of the woods, and it was pretty funny. Like every musician in the area was at the show because it was California Breed opened up, and that was Glenn Hughes, and the drummer for that night was in the band was the drummer of Queens of the Stone Age.
Oh shit!
So like musicians were just like, Jesus Christ, man! Like we're getting Glenn Hughes, one of the greatest singers of all time and bass players, and we're gonna get Mark Tremonti and Miles Kennedy. Like musicians are just taken, they're just there to be blown away by actual musicality. Because Alter Bridge is insane. Like musically, they're so fucking good. So that was funny. Like you just saw everybody from all the different bands. Like, yeah, you're here for Alter Bridge. Of course, I'm fucking here for Alter Bridge. It's Alter Bridge. Let's go. Let's be wowed by musicality on instruments. Like there's still a level of respect for your instrument in a good rock band. I'd like to think. I'd like to believe. But there was actually a day where we were talking about music outside a venue with Hinder. And you could see them geeking out about certain musicians. And I just loved that. I was like, man, see, they're fans. Aha. They have people too that made them pick up a guitar or drumsticks, and they still love them. And we can nerd out about this shit like goofballs because we're fans. Everybody's a fan at some level, man.
And that just makes connecting not only with people that are fans of your band, but other bands as well a lot easier, especially if all of a sudden you realize that everyone is a fan of music in some capacity, to the point where maybe these other musicians are fans of the exact same bands, the exact same artists, and the exact same members of these bands that you are. And all of a sudden you get to talk about it. You talk about the inspiration that they've, struck in you to whatever you're doing in life. All of a sudden it's, hey, I was watching this one drummer and I just was blown away by it. That happened the one time I got to go see Rush. I was just stuck on like folks on Neil Peart. Like, how in the hell is this even possible?
I saw Rush once, same thing. I was just blown away. It was just like, okay, I saw him, good.
It's like every now and again.
I saw Neil Peart, and now I'm really grateful I saw him. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Sorry, as far as Neil Peart goes. Yeah. That's just tragic what happened there, but
it is tragic. But
amazing band to see live.
Absolutely, it is. Again, it is tragic what happened, but again, I always look in perspective. It's life. We're just thankful for the fact that we had Neil Peart as long as we had him, and we still are able to, thanks to the internet, we're able to watch so many different videos of him doing what he did and still being able to be mesmerized by it, even though he is no longer with us.
Yeah, I don't know when you're putting this out, but right now, everybody, I think people are still feeling the sting from Charlie Watts too, the Stones.
Oh yeah,
I wasn't. The Stones. I'm young. I'm 31, youngish, I guess. So this, like, he wasn't like one of my favorite drummers, just to be honest. But I love the way he played for the song. Like he never played more or less than a song needed. And everybody that I like is in some way, shape, or form influenced by him. So his DNA is everywhere. You know what I mean? Like everybody at some point picks something up from Charlie Watts of the Rolling Stones. It's still a big deal. I found out at a gas station after a nap. I woke up from a nap in the van, and we were getting gas, and Phil, our lead singer, just leans out the window as I was walking to the gas station. He goes, "Dude, Charlie Watts is dead. Did you hear?" And I was like, "No." As I went in to go to the bathroom and get a Red Bull or something, It's just like, okay. And then I was like, what do I write? What do I post? Because like I gotta write something. Everyone's gonna post something. So I just put my thoughts together, and
Yeah, I'll say it
was a big one.
For me, it was like I remember the big one that I've had when it comes to musicians when they've unfortunately passed, and that hit me the hardest. There is no doubt in my mind it was when Chester Bennington passed, because that was something where for myself, I liked Linkin Park. I wasn't like a super big fan of Linkin Park, but I really liked them, and I noticed something to where when I was trying to get into a lot more music, and especially the music I'm into now, because I'm really into a lot of, I've always been into punk rock and hard rock, but since starting everything with MSC Rocks and the Chord Progression podcast, I've gotten so much into metalcore and post-hardcore. And a lot of that was, my reservation at first was Unclean Screams. I just never wanted to listen to them. But I could always get behind Chester's rougher, unclean vocals. It was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. So
It's phenomenal.
So when he passed, it was something, was like, that was someone that I had actually listened to and has been growing up listening to. So it absolutely impacted me. And then when I started getting to metalcore and really getting behind unclean vocals and really understanding them, and if I had to like really like take it back to where it all started, it goes back to Chester Bennington. So that was the one where I'm looking, like, thinking, damn, it's like that one still kind of strikes a chord.
That
and
one,
even, it still does today.
It doesn't even feel real to me to this day, to be honest with you. Like, he was so young. It's so tragic how it happened. And I grew up listening to those records so much. And it's still his voice, obviously, when I play the songs. Like, it just, obviously, it happened. But I more than anybody else, I think, and probably just because of how young he was, it just doesn't feel like he's got it. It just doesn't. It's when like it won't sink in until Linkin Park, if they ever do, like get a new singer. Then it'll be like, okay, they're moving on. All right.
Yeah, but again, it's been 40. The thing is, it's been 4 years since that. Linkin Park has been. I mean, all the other guys are still around. They're all doing stuff. Mike Shinoda's still always on Twitch doing his own thing, and I know a couple of other guys are doing their stuff. But I don't, like, in my opinion, I don't think that's ever going to happen because of how close those guys were and how impactful Chester was, where you don't want to bring in anyone to just replace. I've heard a couple people, when it comes to like the style that they work with in terms of their vocal style, they kind of can come close, but it's just the impact that Chester had. It's really, you can't replicate that. You can't bring that back. And it's something where no matter what happens, everyone's going to always be looking, like, thinking about Chester, no matter what, every time, if they ever go back up on stage. Yeah. I hope they do go back up on stage, kind of like they did with the return to the Hollywood Bowl back in 2017. And they had a bunch of like guest singers come out, like from other bands, of course. But then the most powerful one was when they played Numb, and they just had the shining light from the spotlight down on the mic stand. Yeah. And when it comes to his impact, this is probably the best way I can describe the impact that Chester Bennington had when it comes to just the fans of rock and metal today. Was at a show in 2019. It was Beartooth, I Prevail, and Day to Remember. In between I Prevail and A Day to Remember set, of course, you're playing music and you're having a good time. And they played some of the best stuff you could possibly play. We started a mosh pit during Chop Suey because they're just playing it, in between. And we started going nuts. They were playing a bunch of like 80s stuff and like some like boy band stuff, and people were just having fun with it. But then they played Numb by Linkin Park in between the sets. And the whole entire crowd was singing along with it every step of the way. And I kind of looked at that moment. I thought, there is no doubt in my mind that everybody here is connected, even in some sort of way, no matter what. No matter if you're like a bigger fan of Beartooth, I remember. But the fact that when they played a Numb in between sets, everyone was connected in that capacity. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen at a concert. And again, it just, even for you as well, if you like Linkin Park, if you connected with Chester Bennington at some point when it came to the vocals, you could be in that exact same thing. And we're in two completely different places in the world in terms of our lives. Musically, again, you could be up on stage, I could be the guy in the crowd, but something like that happens, music, man. It's a beautiful thing. It connects us in such a positive way that it's awesome.
I just like that if they're gonna get anybody else to take in their time, because they should. There's no rush. You know who I think did make a pretty successful return and really took their time, and it just felt organic and didn't feel like it was for the money and all this other stuff, was Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains, when they got Duvall, it was good. I saw it live and I was blown away. Like, it was really good. And they took their time. They took years. They just wasn't like, oh, we need money and panic. Alice in Chains is back. Like, it was like, do we want to do this? I don't know. Well, this guy's pretty good. Well, let's feel it out. Like, it felt, at least I don't know the story, obviously, right? But it felt like they really took their time and they went, okay, it's been long enough. We're comfortable to say we're back. This is the guy. And Alice in Chains is phenomenal live right now. They really are. And the guy can sing the old stuff really, really well. I hope Linkin Park maybe could do the same thing. You know what I mean? Because people still love those songs. And they would pay to see them live if it was done right. But you got to do it right. You know what I mean? You can't just grab somebody. It won't be the same. You know, it has to be something that makes sense. And who knows if that's ever going to happen or what the right answer is to that or any of that. But that's just what I hope as a fan.
I think using Alice in Chains as like the analogy for it definitely works out, because with Duval, you listen to them play the old stuff with Lane Staley as Duval singing it. It still sounds fantastic.
It does.
And then you listen to the new stuff and it still sounds like Alice in Chains.
I know, and I like it too. Like, I like the new stuff. Like, you know, a lot of bands fall into that trap of like, that's not as good as the old stuff. Just, you know, release your one single so you can go play the hits. No, man, I think Alice in Chains' new shit's always pretty good.
Yeah, and even going on top of that as well, it's something where Alice in Chains, they know they're without. They know they don't have Lane Staley anymore. They know that that's not the case, and the fans know that's not the case. And they're not trying to be that. They're trying to be they're trying to be Alice in Chains who they are. They're not trying to be the Alice in Chains.
Just another chapter in the legacy of the band. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really hard to find something like that, but I hope Linkin Park, if they do come back, they find something like that to the point where whoever ends up coming in is able to perform the songs that they originally had done with Chester incredibly well, and still make new music that still sounds incredibly good as well. However, it doesn't feel like, you know, it's like a replacement or anything. It feels just like the next chapter.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's the best way to put it. But honestly, Jonny, because I know kind of coming up on the hour mark right now, dude.
Okay.
I know we didn't get to jump in like that much of your, like with the music of Small Town Titans, but really going into the fact of you guys going out on tour with Hinder, and then the whole entire idea of being a band, especially on the rise, and how to act when you're out on tour and how to work within that stuff. That's something that I had never even thought of in terms of how bands could really, you know, take a whole entire podcast and be like, okay, you know, what can you learn from this? That is something that I've never had in this podcast, and I'm so glad we dove into it, because
that's cool, man. Yeah,
I'm adding so much more even to my knowledge as well when it comes to even being as like doing podcasts and whatnot. However, going to these shows and potentially meeting some of these bands, you know, even my mindset, how to act on this, how to always, you know, if something doesn't go right, something sometimes might not go right. How do you respond to that though? That's going to be the biggest key, is how do you respond to adversity?
Learning how to adapt is a crucial skill to learn in this business. In every way, not just a musician. Like if you're a promoter, if you're a venue owner, if you're a sound guy, like learning how to make things the best they can be on the fly is pretty crucial, because anything can happen. Anything.
Absolutely. And Jonny, as we close out this podcast, one thing I always like to do before I go through my couple of things to close us out, I always like to give my guest, which is you this time, a chance to say anything you want to say. Plug whatever you want to plug at the moment. So at this moment right now, Jonny, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Our current single, and thanks for listening, guys. I'm Jonny Ross, the drummer for Small Town Titans. Our current single is Behind the Moon. You can stream it everywhere now. We're probably going to drop one more in the fall. And honestly, because of all the pandemic stuff going on right now, talking to our agent and things that we got going on, we're going to probably hold off on playing too much more this year. We're going to do a little bit in September. We're doing Rebel Rock in Orlando, so we're going to get down there and get back. And I think we have 2 shows on the books for October and November, but we're not actively looking for anything else at the moment because things are going to get a little crazy. October 4th, you're going to need proof of vaccination to even go to a show. Some people aren't going to like that. We don't have to get into it. You know, everyone knows what's going on. But then we're going to make a record in the winter and come out 2022 swinging. So there's not a whole lot to promote right now. You know what I mean? We got a new single, and you can Google us. We're always doing stuff on social media. We're always pushing to grow and have somebody new, you know, who's never heard of us find out about us every single day through our social media and everything else. And we're excited to make more music and keep growing and growing and growing.
And I think you guys definitely will. So now it's time to end with 3 things I like to end with. So the first thing is, when it comes to Small Town Titans, everyone that's listening, when it comes to their latest single, Behind the Moon, and the other single they're planning on releasing sometime in the fall of 2021. And you guys, I know you didn't promote that much, but you were teasing a good amount. So people can get to start expect stuff, just kind of getting a little more amped up for more small town Titan stuff, especially going into 2022. So even with some of the shows are still playing in 2021, I know you guys are going to want to potentially get out and see that. You're going to want to know about that. You're going to want to follow along with their socials. Be sure to stream their music, buy their music wherever you can. But I know what you're thinking. And you guys know I always say this. You guys just want a quick place where it's a one-stop shop where you can find all the links to everything for Small Town Titans and just take it from there instead of having to search all that stuff up. You want me to do all the work, so I'm going to do all the work. So look at the description of the podcast and say, find Small Town Titans online. All the links for socials, YouTube, where to stream their music, where to buy their music, where to make sure you find out, especially with a couple of shows that are still going to be playing in 2021 or any other shows that pop up during this time or in the future. Make sure that you're keeping tabs on them. I'm going to make it as easy as possible. It's going to be a click the link, click the follow button, subscribe, whatever it might be, stream it, buy it, whatever it might be. Bing, bang, boom, helping you out right there.
Look
Now,
at
Jonny,
that. Cool.
here's number 2.
Yeah.
And this is whenever I have guests on the podcast, I absolutely enjoy having on. I like to make a certain promise. And this has happened every single time I've had a guest on the podcast. And this has not broken that streak yet, so this is going to continue to happen. So, Jonny, my promise to you, you might have an idea of where this might be going because we did talk about this at some point during the podcast, but this is not an if. No, not an if, because an if implies possibility. When implies certainty, just unsureness of date. So when I can see Small Town Titans perform live for the first time.
Cool.
Jonny, my promise to you is this. First round's on me.
Oh, I like that. That sounds good to me, man. Hell yeah.
We'll make it happen. And on that note, Jonny, I cannot end this podcast in all good conscience with goodbye for a couple of reasons. One, made that promise to you, so it's not like an end-all be-all kind of thing. I'm going to end up seeing you at some point to make that promise and to see Small Town Titans play live. Other reason is because, I enjoyed having you on this podcast, man. I love talking about everything around this tour mindset and just understanding the things that you've learned and where it can be applied to not only other bands, but to anybody else that's going through anything in life right now in terms of, just being professional, adapting, all that good kind of stuff. But we really didn't get to jump
I guess a lot of us are doing that at some level, and because everything's changing in the workplace, no matter what, with working from home and more stuff through Zoom meetings like this. Yeah, true. You can apply that to anything, really.
Exactly. And I'd love to talk about your music a lot more in depth when that new record is ready to come out. I'd love to go in depth with it and go through and go through in depth with each and every song and create a note sheet of 16, 17 pages and talk to you all about it.
Hey, damn. Okay.
It always happens, and I'm always glad to do it. So on that note, Jonny, I cannot, again, end this podcast with goodbye. Again, that implies possibility that it might not ever happen again or might not see you again. This implies that it's going to happen just as of right now. The date, unsure. So I'm going to end the podcast with this. See you later.
There you go.
Well, folks, that's my interview with Jonny from the band Small Town Titans. If you want to find Small Town Titans online, you want to follow along with them because they tease a lot of stuff, a couple of new shows that might be coming up in 2021. They're still looking to really go and hit the ground running in 2022. New music that's coming out, maybe another single this year, but a new album maybe next year. Who knows? They tease a lot, but you're going to want to follow along with them. You're going to want to stream their stuff, let your stuff, support them. Everything you need to find on Small Town Titans, social media-wise, music-wise, merch-wise, concert-wise, is in the description of the podcast for you to check out under Find Small Town Titans online. All the links are there. All the labels are. Same thing with MSOTD Rocks and the Chord Progression Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel to watch all our crazy YouTube videos. And, of course, the Chord Progression Podcast. You can listen to the podcast, Spotify Podcast, iHeart Radio, and hopefully Amazon at this point because I know I need to do that. And I know I still got the email in my email inbox because when I started saying that, I just was having a crazy time around all shooting these things and just haven't gotten to it yet, but hopefully by the time this comes out, that will end up being the case. Again, thank you to Phoenix Fitness for sponsoring this podcast. 15% off using MSOTD as the code at checkout at fnxfit.com. Thank you, Phoenix Fitness. And man, I'm really enjoying some of these super duper insightful podcasts that we've been having. Small Town Titans, Sell Your Scores with Ricky, going so deep into the idea of nostalgia, landing from the plot in you when it comes to being an independent band. What we do with Brian with Fame on Fire, man, there are so many great ones that have been happening. I'm loving every minute of this, guys. I do not want to just miss out on any of this. I don't want you to miss out on it. So remember, please subscribe to the Chord Progression Podcast. Check out all the episodes because all these are so good. So on that note, that's going to be for me, guys. Thank you for watching and listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. Brought to you by MSOTD Rocks, where rock and metal thrive. My name is Kevin. And you guys know how I end every single one. This is a big, healthy, and hearty. See ya!